I think, being a leader and, having a good process and a good plan and then have people around you that can really execute, that's really the imperative to success, to be able to do that.
Keith, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I think a great starting point for our conversation will be if you talk a little bit about your own journey and what inspired the creation of P for Dentist.
Sure. Well, very nice to meet you, and I look forward to our conversation today. I think that the biggest, thing for my journey, it was never planned out. Like I didn't really have a plan. When I graduated from college, I had a degree in marketing and business administration, and I joined a company called Aldi. Aldi at that time was a pretty small grocery retailer out of Germany. It was one of those, I'd say, premier jobs. Like everyone wanted that job when they were going to the career services. Ultimately, because they paid really well. What I didn't know at the time is how much you had to work to get that pay. So I got paid very well as my first job, but I worked 70, 80 hours a week. And I remember year one, I lost 20 pounds because I never ate. All I did was work. But the company was pretty amazing, and I'm not sure if you've heard of Aldi in California yet, but they're, I think, the third largest retailer in the world. So they've grown quite a bit from that point. But it was a German company, very structured, very organized, very simple. And I really learned a ton. I was there from 92 to 2000. And during that time, I was the director of operations, and I was responsible for 4 different states. And we were opening a new store every other week. So I got a lot of experience on systems, on warehousing, development, or operations, obviously training, hiring, like from top to bottom. And it was a very lean organization, so you really had to do a lot yourself. There weren't lawyers involved. Everything you did, you had to do yourself. So coming out of that, I was just felt like I had a really good bag of tricks to be able to take on the work world and life. So I left in 2000 and joined a company in Texas. So I moved my family from just outside of Cleveland, Ohio, down to Dallas and started a startup company. And it was something that was meant to be very similar to Aldi because they didn't have any Aldi down south. So we did that. It was pretty intense. Startups, if you have never done one, they are another animal within its own. It's pretty crazy on having to do everything from scratch. Start everything you do has to be brand new. So it was a very unique opportunity. We ended up opening up 22 grocery stores in 2 years, which was pretty amazing that we got that much accomplished. But unfortunately, our parent company was called Fleming Companies. They were the largest wholesaler in the world, and at that time, their largest customer was Kmart, and Kmart went bankrupt, and that put Fleming into bankruptcy immediately. Because 60% of their business was with that customer, and then they didn't have that customer. So it was a publicly traded company. I got to live the world of midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock a.m. meetings, crisis mode, everyone losing jobs. It was pretty crazy, but I was 30 years old. I was young. I couldn't believe I was in that position to learn that much and to see that much. But obviously, with Fleming going bankrupt, they didn't have any use for a small grocery chain under their umbrella. So I happened to get into the dental business, and that was 2002. I had started with a company called Dental One out of Dallas. It was a company that was fledgling, not doing well, and the CEO really needed someone that had great operational experience. Now, I never had any dentistry experience or healthcare, but I did definitely have operational experience. Fantastic company that we ended up kind of getting all the right people in the right places, got a lot of discipline into the organization, a lot of education, and we ended up turning around and growing that company. And then we sold to private equity in 2009. And then subsequently, we merged with another fairly large dental organization, and then continued to grow that till 2015. 2015, I became the CEO of Legacy ER and Urgent Care in Dallas. So it was a combination model of ERs and urgent cares, and that was just a great opportunity. That concept is not anywhere in the United States except in Texas. That was the only place that freestanding emergency rooms were allowed. So got to learn a ton about freestanding emergency rooms, a lot about that type of business, and I got to see a lot happen. There was a company that was in Dallas that exploded. I think they built like 60 locations in a couple years and ended up going bankrupt. It was kind of crazy to see, but they were publicly traded, so got to see that all play out in the markets. And then in 2017, I just got an opportunity. My non-compete was up in dental, and I got an opportunity to start the company that I'm currently with called Partnerships for Dentists, and did that with a few people that I had known for a long time that I'd worked with in the dental industry. And we just really thought that we had an opportunity to start something that was different. At that time, most dental companies were more positioned to focus on dentists being employees, and really we wanted dentists to be partners. We didn't want them to be an employee; we wanted to be a partner. So that's why we changed the name of our company to Partnerships for Dentists, and we really focused on having great relationships with doctors, letting them be in ownership just alongside us. So we're partners in every sense of the word, and growing the organization just through great leadership from the dentists and the team that we have, and be able to build something that we thought that could be top notch in the dental business. So that's where I am today. So 17 to 26, and we have 45 practices, and we do north of 120 million in revenue.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, and I think you have so much of operational excellence experience, not only in one domain, but like you worked in multiple domains as well. And this resonates a lot because I do come from operations background as well. I have been working as chief operating officer, and a lot of things that you mentioned are very much resonating with me as well, especially growth. I mean, we all see in our organization, all of a sudden there is a massive growth going on, and then unfortunately then the phase also comes where the organization is scaling down or going out of business. So I really want to, before we talk a little bit more about Partnership for Dentists, I want to understand from you how you managed to survive in this challenging area for that long, because it's not easy. Growth comes with its own challenges as well, and when unfortunately you are scaling down or you are going towards shutting down operations, I think in both of those phases, in the scale up and scale down, an operational leader is always at the forefront of dealing with situation. On one hand, it's a beautiful challenge of dealing with scalability, growing, but on the other side, it's a nightmare of dealing with scaling down or unfortunately shutting down organization. So I want to learn from you how you managed to survive in this tough area.
Yeah, so when you're building a company, it's to me it's all about simplicity, right? You try to take all the variables and make it as simple as possible for your team. So you have to surround yourself by a lot of talented people that can do things you can't do. So everyone can play an integral role, but you don't want all the same type of people. You want, a lot of different people that can handle different areas. So you have a lot of different captains on the ship that can, pick up and help you with areas. Because as the leader, you're just the captain of the ship, right? Like you're just steering the ship to keep it away from the icebergs. Like that's the main thing. And when you're growing, you got to watch your money. You don't have much money, so you're not having a whole, especially as a startup company, you don't have much money coming in, but you have a ton of expenses. So, foundationally, you have to build the organization to be able to ramp up, to become profitable, and then to be an appropriate profit level. So I think that really goes into doing it the right way, making sure that you have, all of your relations in place, all your contracts in place, and make sure they're good ones. And luckily, I'd spent so many years in the dental business that when I did this company, that I had the experience and the talent around me to be able to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that people have. And um, even though the Yes Less ended up not working out, I didn't have to wind it down. So I was lucky that I found another opportunity before that happened, because that's no fun. And luckily for me, that all the other positions that I've had, that it's been really great growth and having a lot of upside. Now that doesn't come without challenge. That there's always challenges for us. 2020 was a major challenge. It really changed the market in dentistry. It affected, the talent that was out there with providers for both hygienists and doctors, as well as staff, which that I don't think our industry has still recovered from that significant change in what the talent was doing. So I think, being a leader and, having a good process and a good plan, and then have people around you that can really execute, that's really the imperative to success, to be able to do that.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. Partnership for dentist. What are the typical things that you take off the plate of dentist to make sure that they are focusing on providing the care, they are focusing on patients, and I believe you are taking care of a lot of administrative or operational side of their business, if this assumption is correct?
Yeah. So, I mean, the whole goal is we don't have per se a playbook. So we don't go in and change the name of the practice. We don't slap down, hey, you have to answer the phone this way, you have to do this way. What we do is we try to support them where they need support. Just like any business, every dental office has opportunities. We try to go in and help the dentist where they need the help. And every dentist could really be in a different place. You could have a dentist that doesn't need much of our help. And so we'll only help in a little area that they're at. But then you have some that really said, hey, I don't like the business aspect. I don't like the human resources aspect. I want to just focus on taking care of patients. And then we'll help them a lot more. But we do everything top to bottom, from the HR, IT, legal, marketing, operations, training, helping the clinical side of the business, purchasing, vendor relations. So we can do every single thing in a dental practice if it's needed. So we try to customize that to each one of our partners to see exactly what has the biggest benefits for them, because they're ultimately our customer, and we want to make sure we're providing great services to our customer.
Got it. So in order for all that to execute, how much you are depending on technology, or are there any tools or applications or softwares that you are using to make sure that you are taking care of all these requirements of your partners?
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things that we focused on post 2020 is we had a lot of problems with staffing. And so, we sat back and said, hey, if we're going to have issues with staffing, we have to find technology to be able to supplement staffing. So we have done, there's a few companies that we've used. We used a company called Inside Desk that helped us significantly with getting claims paid quicker. And it's made a huge difference on our cash flow, getting our claims paid quicker. We have a company named Pearly that actually goes out automatically each day and will send a patient an email or text, whichever they provide, with the billing, and it will collect it virtually. So without having us have to send out statements or us having to call anyone, that it automatically collects payments. We have a company we use called TrueLark, which uses an AI bot when we miss calls to text the patient and help them with any problems they have virtually. So, a human doesn't have to get involved. They will get involved if the AI can't answer the questions, but they also have the technology to even schedule a patient if they want to get scheduled. So there is a handful of technology companies that I feel have been integral in our post 2020 dilemma with staffing to help us get over the hump and make sure that we are taking care of the patient and getting the best service to the patient that we can give.
Got it. So how does your current growth trajectory looks like? I mean, if you have to, for example, envision how many more partners you are looking forward to onboarding uh, for this year, what does it look like?
I am fortunate enough that we have a good financial situation that I don't say that, hey, I want to do 10 or 20 or 30. I really just want to do as many as I could potentially find that align with us. So culturally, that, one of the hard parts is we look for practices that are a certain size. So we have a minimum threshold of 1.5 million for a practice that we partner with. But we're really focused, is it a great dentist? Do they have a history of providing great care? Do they have a great team and staff? Do they have a great historical record of how they've performed in their practice? And that isn't the easiest thing to find. So I don't ever say, hey, I'm going to go do 20 of them because I don't know if I could find 20 of those great partners. So I'll do as many as I can find and as many that want to partner with us. But that's not an infinite number each year. It's just we just work our best to find the right partners.
Understood. So how does the onboarding process for your new partner look like? I mean, in what amount of time you are able to successfully integrate new partners in your group?
So we go through a due diligence period of 3 months. So in that time, we're gathering a ton of data on the practice. So if we're gonna buy a multi-million-dollar business, we have to make sure everything that's been represented is the
Correct.
actual right thing. And quality of earnings is big. Making sure that everything ties from their system to their bank account, that it's all there. We look through, the different things in the system from the way they bill things out to make sure there's nothing fraudulent going on, to make sure that they're using the right fees, making sure they're collecting over the counter. And then we have to get all their vendors because, once we close, we have to switch all their vendors over to our billing system. We have to do credentialing, so we have to credential them with a new tax ID on the insurances. So there's I think dentists sometimes think it's an easy process to sell a practice, but when you're paying somebody millions of dollars, there's a lot of verification that has to take place, and it's really on both sides. We both want to, you want to know if we're doing this that we're both representing the same things, and we're going to get out of this exactly what we wanted when we decided to do the deal.
Understood. So Keith, I want to ask you one question that in your day-to-day job, what is one big challenge that you encounter on like regular basis? Is there any such challenge or problem that you encounter on regular basis and you really feel that you need to find solution for that?
I think it's always been people. Like that I don't really have anything to do with the dentistry portion of our business, that the doctors have a license and they take care of patients. So anything that we have that becomes a challenge is typically related to people. Sometimes people don't feel like they're getting out of what they thought they would. Sometimes people are not behaving in an appropriate manner. Sometimes people aren't happy. Sometimes people have things going on in their personal life. We have a situation going on right now that a practice that when the freeze happened, a month ago, that the practice lost its power and the sprinkler system went off and it completely flooded the practice. And so we have a practice that can't see patients because we have to gut the whole thing, and we're dealing with insurance companies and so forth. So that's a big challenge that we didn't know what to do, but we at the same time we have to make sure we're doing all we can to take care of our employees that can't work right now, and the doctors, and then the patients that need healthcare. So I don't think there's anything mechanically, so to speak, that is a challenge for us. It's more just we have a lot of people, and it's a very big relationship business. So I think you have to do a lot to maintain the relationships, and have to do a lot to make sure that we have good, positive, ongoing relationships.
Thank you. And probably last question from my end, but most important from my perspective. One thing caught my attention when I was going through the website for P for dentist. It's the philosophy of servant leadership. Seems it really stood out. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's the philosophy or mindset behind this term, servant leadership or servant-oriented approach. What does this mean, and why it's important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love servant leadership. There's a book called The Servant by the author is James Hunter. I read that back in '99, and it just really stuck with me. It's a book about a guy's journey, and it's really easy to read. Anyone can read it. It's not a business book, or it's not a technical in nature book. It's about a journey. A guy, his life's all screwed up. Everything's screwed up. His work, his friends, his home, his kids, his wife, everything from top to bottom, and he really doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to get out of it. So he ends up taking a retreat to a monastery, and he meets a cast of characters of people that we all could relate with different diversity, I'd say. So, a coach and a teacher and somebody from a military background. And it really just teaches you, life in general isn't about yourself. It's more of what you put into others, and that's really what creates a lot of happiness. And from a leadership style, it's giving more than you expect in return. So this book was easy for me to teach people, easy to have people read it, talk about it, and it's all things we all learned when we were kids growing up, but then as adults we've forgotten on how to treat people, how to set expectations, how to support people, how to give people what they need, not what they want. But the end of the day, if you're trying to water a plant, you want it to grow and to be green, right? If you don't put anything into that plant, if you don't give it a nice soil, if you don't give it sunshine, if you don't give it water, it's not going to grow. It's no different than people. You have to give a lot to people, and you don't want to be brown and dying. You want to be green and growing. And so that's really the philosophy of servant leadership, of giving people a lot more than they would expect from a leader, and have a high expectation of getting them to be very good at what they do, and grow and develop, and then carry that on to others. Ultimately you want other people to be great servant leaders and have that same philosophy with the people around them.
Thank you for this powerful insight. And my last question, Keith, if somebody is thinking to start their own dental practice, what advice would you give them?
Dental practice or dental company?
Dental practice.
Okay, so I think if you're a solo doctor and you're looking to start a practice, I would really make sure you understand the business side of it. That a lot of doctors go in and think, hey, I've learned all these skills in school, which 99.9% were dentistry related, but they didn't get the skills on how to work with people in their practice. They didn't get the skills to understand the books, understand what's going on in their management software. I think that there's a statistic like 93% of all healthcare providers are embezzled from, because they're busy performing healthcare when their staff is the one that really knows what's going on with the money, what's going on with the AR, what's going on with the books. So, you can't be just a provider in healthcare. If you want to be an owner, you got to really be an owner. And that means that you got to understand your total business, not just the teeth part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your insight, for wisdom, and I'm sure this is going to be useful to many of our listeners.